Every man carries within him a gnawing uncertainty, a question that has been wrapped in the velvet of half-truths and sentimental illusions. You have been told again and again that you will never truly fathom the workings of a woman's mind, that her feelings are a labyrinth beyond the comprehension of your masculine logic, and in surrendering to this soft deception, you have forfeited something vital: clarity. For the reality is not cloaked in mysticism, nor is it hidden behind some curtain of inaccessible experience. The truth stands in plain sight, unmoved by tears or proclamations of virtue. You need not inhabit her skin to decipher her longings. You need only to watch, without the trembling eagerness to be approved, without the desperation to be loved for the sacrifices you offer on the altar of her ever-shifting emotions. It is a simple, merciless law. Actions reveal what words will never confess. A woman's behavior is the manuscript of her soul, and when you learn to read it without embellishment, you will find her intentions laid bare. In this quiet observation, stripped of sentiment and wishful thinking, you will discover how often her words are but soft veils to shield herself from the unsettling mirror of her own desires. She says she wants kindness, gentleness, the sanctuary of a love without conflict. Yet her footsteps carry her to the threshold of men who will not bend for her approval, who remain untouched by the storms she conjures. She insists she needs safety, yet she is drawn to the man who plants seeds of uncertainty in her heart, because that uncertainty tastes of life itself, raw and intoxicating. You have perhaps wondered why this contradiction never resolves. Why the women you cherished with devotion turned away from the sanctuary you offered, as though the very security they demanded had become a prison. You did not fail because you lacked empathy. You failed because you believed that feelings are the truest compass of desire. But feelings are only the flickering shadows of deeper instincts that will not be named aloud. You could spend your life trying to soothe her fears, anticipate her moods, heal her wounds. But until you stop listening to the poetry of her confessions and start watching the pattern of her choices, you will be forever bewildered. Consider that every woman is born into a duality she did not choose. One part of her is sculpted by centuries of evolution, shaped by the same cold arithmetic that demands the strong survive. Another part of her is molded by the culture that insists she must appear virtuous, benevolent, serene. This tension leaves her stranded between who she believes she ought to be and the ancient voice that whispers what she truly craves. She cannot fully acknowledge this conflict, because to do so would shatter the illusions that protect her from her own hidden appetites. So she tells herself stories. And if you accept them as the whole truth, you are as blind as she is. In the silent theater of her behavior, you see a different narrative unfold. She moves toward the man who will not yield, who is neither cruel nor indulgent, but steadfast in the sovereignty of his own mind. She tests him with her storms and waits to see if he will drown. She feels a primal reverence when he does not. The modern world has softened this truth, wrapped it in gauze and sentiment, but the programming remains. She is drawn to the challenge, the uncertainty, the steady gravity of a man who cannot be seduced by her moods into betraying himself. Imagine the physician who studies disease not by listening to the patient's description of pain, but by examining the processes that unfold beneath the surface. He does not require the patient's subjective experience to see the truth in the cellular decay, the imbalance of systems. So too must you learn to look past her words and see the code that governs her behavior. If she is telling you she longs for tranquility, but spends her nights in the chaos of reckless love, it is not because she lies, but because she does not know. And if you cannot see beyond her unknowing, you will stand forever in the wreckage of her contradictions, wondering why your gentlest efforts never blossom into devotion. When you attempt to be the man she says she wants, when you surrender your instincts to the guidance of her sentiments, you become a creature she cannot respect. The moment you forsake your center to appease her turmoil, you declare that her moods possess the authority to rearrange you. And though she may smile with relief when you yield, a part of her will recoil from the very power she claimed to desire. The heart of a woman does not long for a man she can bend to her impulses. It longs for a man whose purpose remains inviolate, even when she tests it with her storms. There is a peculiar cruelty in this design. The more earnestly you attempt to heal her restlessness by accommodating it, the more she grows convinced that you are unworthy of the reverence she yearns to bestow. For though she protests she wants peace, it is the tension between your sovereignty and her uncertainty that ignites her devotion. And if you extinguish that tension in a desperate bid to be enough, you will find yourself abandoned, left with nothing but the bitterness of your own misguided tenderness. Do not mistake this truth for cynicism. It is no condemnation of her nature to see it clearly. It is simply an acceptance that in her biology there are ancient imperatives that do not yield to ideology or sentiment. Her attraction is not a moral judgment, but a response to signals she cannot silence. When you offer the unchallenging comfort of unconditional compliance, you rob her of the very crucible that would allow her to feel alive in your presence. She may praise your gentleness, but she will never admire it. She may express gratitude for your sacrifice, but her body will never thrill to it. Every time you relinquish your purpose in deference to her feelings, you sacrifice the gravity that once drew her near. You become a man she can possess, and possession breeds contempt. The paradox is cruel but unyielding. She will feel safer with you when she knows you cannot be moved by her momentary discontent. She will love you more when she discovers that her love is not necessary for you to remain who you are. You will recognize this pattern everywhere if you dare to see it without sentiment. The woman who insists she wants stability returns to the arms of the man who destabilizes her certainty. The woman who declares she values kindness recoils from the man who offers it too readily. The woman who swears she desires closeness grows restless in the presence of a man who never leaves. She does not conspire to betray herself. She is simply responding to instincts that evolved to select the mate most capable of weathering her storms. If you can witness this without judgment, you will have uncovered a rare freedom. You will no longer be seduced by her assurances or wounded by her inconsistencies. You will see her as she is, a creature pulled between her longing for comfort and her need for challenge. The tragedy of modern relationships is that they are built upon the worship of feelings as the supreme authority. Men are instructed to heed every fluctuation of a woman's heart as though it were the oracle of lasting love, yet the evidence is plain. The more you orbit her emotions, the less she will feel for you. Her respect is not won by your willingness to be shaped by her moods, but by your refusal to abandon yourself in the face of them. When you remain unmoved by her efforts to draw you off course, she finds in you something that cannot be extracted, a fortress she cannot conquer. And it is this impossibility that commands her devotion. When you witness the patterns that repeat across her relationships, her friendships, her professional alliances, you will see the same choreography, an unspoken contest to measure strength and resilience. The woman who competes with her female friends behind the mask of solidarity is obeying instincts older than civilization. The woman who claims she despises arrogance is often enthralled by the men who wield it without apology. The woman who laments her own restlessness is compelled to seek it again and again. She is not a liar, but neither is she a reliable witness to her own desires. If you can relinquish the hope that her feelings will ever fully align with her words, you will stop measuring your worth by her approval. You will stop surrendering your integrity for her fleeting comforts. In this detachment, there is not cruelty, but a deeper kind of care, a respect for her nature that exceeds the counterfeit compassion of indulgence. You will love her enough to deny her the illusions that corrupt her respect for you. You will hold your ground not to punish her, but because the strength of your center is the one gift she cannot bestow upon herself. This is the knowledge that divides the man who is devoured by her contradictions from the man who thrives within them. To see her clearly is to understand that her emotions are but the tides. They will rise and fall, sometimes tumultuous, sometimes serene, but always returning to their rhythm. You are not the tide, you are the shore. When you anchor yourself in the bedrock of your purpose, you will discover that her storms cannot erode you. And in that unyielding certainty, she will find the peace her words professed to desire, but her heart could never earn from a man who allowed himself to be moved. The man who observes without entanglement becomes a rare creature. He is neither cold nor indifferent, but he does not confuse empathy with subservience. He will not apologize for his boundaries. He will not dismantle himself to soothe the discomfort she feels in the presence of his strength. He will offer understanding without surrender, compassion without compromise, and in the quiet spaces where no words are spoken, she will feel the pull of something ancient, an invitation to meet him in the place where desire and respect are no longer divided. This is not a path for the man who wishes to be adored for his compliance. It is a path for the man who values truth above the theater of romance. And though it will cost you the soothing lies that once wrapped your heart in illusions, it will reward you with something rarer, a love that endures because it is founded on the reality of her nature and the unshakable substance of your own. When you release the need to be defined by her approval, when you stop bending yourself to match the silhouette of her shifting desires, you step into a freedom few men ever taste. You no longer tremble at her storms or hunger for her constant reassurance. You watch her with a quiet reverence, understanding that her contradictions are not your burden to resolve. You remain rooted in the certainty of your own purpose, and in that unmovable stance, she feels a gravity that no sweet words could ever replicate. For it is not in your surrender that she finds devotion, but in your refusal to be conquered by her moods. And in the silent recognition that you cannot be reshaped, she discovers a security she cannot name, a sanctuary she cannot help but return to.